Hey everybody, welcome to Bean of the Week. Today we're going to be making Flor De Mayo beans. Flor De Mayo beans are described as a delicate bean prized in the Mexican state of Michoacan. Should have known how to pronounce that. Keeps its shape while cooking, melts in your mouth once you start eating. So, it's a smaller bean. I have some in the pot here, and I just realized I forgot my knife. So while I'm gone, you can look in the bean pot here and see my beans cooking. So I see a couple of people are on. Excuse me for a moment, I'm gonna go get my knife. And also Taro is over here snoozing. I don't know if you can see him in the distance. Taro, they're looking for you. But anyway, he's over there. And I will be right back. I was cutting something up in the other room and I kept my knife in there. So we're gonna make taquitos today. I know that's a strange thing. And I've been cooking my Flor De Mayo beans for, gosh, over 2 hours and they're still not quite done. I tasted them a little while ago and they were still a little bit, just not very done. Well, they're getting there. They're getting there. So we'll be all right. While they're continuing to cook, we'll get our other stuff made and they'll be done by that time. They're almost done. So I wanted to show you about these beans, that you can't always assume that the bean is going to be done when it says it's going to be done, because no recipe is exactly alike. So I started these beans like I do all my beans. I've soaked them this morning about 5:30 or so when I was getting ready to go walk, and they soaked for the usual 5 hours, 5 or 6 hours, and then I started them in my pot here. And what I did was I, used my sauteed garlic and onions, the usual stuff. I didn't put celery and carrots in this because a lot of times if I'm making a Mexican-inspired bean dish, I don't put carrots and celery in it because that to me doesn't really go with it. So I just put onions and garlic. And then I brought it to a boil, boiled it for 10 minutes. And then it's been simmering here on a low heat with my lid kind of cocked on it. Not completely, 1/4 till 12. So, it's over 2 hours. I see a lot of people coming on. Hi everybody, Sherry and others. I've seen your names pop up. So anyway, they should be done by now, but they're not. So that goes to show you, don't count on beans being done when you think they're gonna be done. They may not be. So always allow extra time for your beans to cook because you don't know if they're gonna be done on time. If you hear some background noise, I have my air fryer right back here, and the air fryer is preheating because I'm going to put these taquitos in the air fryer to get them nice and crispy. If you don't have an air fryer, my recipe, you could make them in the oven at 400 degrees, and if you have a convection setting, that's even better because you can put them on convection. Also, for my tortillas, today I'm using these tortillas I get at Sprouts, and they're called artisan yellow corn tortillas. And they do have a little bit of flour in them, but they don't have any added fat. So they're kind of corn and flour tortillas with no added fat. And the reason I like them for the taquitos is because they roll up really well. They're very flexible. So if you use just plain corn tortillas, a lot of times they break. And you have to heat them up and moisten them and do all kinds of stuff to them. These, we're gonna moisten them a little bit, but we don't really have to do a lot to them, and it works out well. Hi Cynthia, Kathy, Ellen. So that's what I'm using today. And then I'm also gonna be using some liquid from my Rotel tomatoes. And I'll probably use some of the Rotel tomatoes in the dish, but I strain the liquid. I see someone sent me a message, just bought them and they are wonderful. Debbie Ramstack. Yeah, those Sprouts tortillas have such a good taste. I use them a lot. I find them to be really good. So I strained the Rotel from the can to get this liquid, and that's what I'm going to dip the tortillas in. Then I have all these tomatoes with green chilies, and I'll use some of them in my mixture, but not all of them. So that's kind of getting ready for this dish. I also have green chilies. These are Hatch green chilies that I buy them when they're in season here, like in August, and freeze them in little 4 to 8 ounce packages, so that whenever I need Hatch chilies or green chilies, I just get them out of the freezer. So not everyone does that, but they sell them in cans and jars. So just get some green chilies if you want. You don't have to use green chilies. You can use green bell peppers. You could use red bell peppers. You could use orange bell peppers. You don't have to use green chilies. I just like stuff with green chilies in it. And then the other ingredient I have is some frozen corn that I've just had sitting out defrosting a little bit. So use some corn if you like corn. And I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to start this with some onions and garlic. And then I'm going to be adding whatever I feel like adding, basically, because we're making a filling for our taquitos with beans as the main ingredient. We're making our Rancho Gordo Flor De Mayo Beans as the main star of the taquito filling, but we can add whatever we want. So for example, last night I grilled a bunch of vegetables, and they're just lightly marinated in vegetable broth and different things. There's nothing strong tasting. There's yellow squash, yellow bell pepper, zucchini, and some peppers from the garden. These are spicy jalapeno Fresno chili. So I was thinking about what I was going to make today, and I thought, oh, I'll chop these up and throw them in with the beans and make this kind of mashed mixture to stuff into the tortillas and then cook them in the air fryer. Then I'll have that for dinner tonight. It's a little late to eat it for lunch, and besides that, I'm going to the gym to work out with my trainer at 4 o'clock. I thought maybe he would cancel on me today because it's Labor Day. So I texted him this morning and said, are we going to work out today? It's Labor Day, because I know he's off. And he said, no, it's fine, come on. So I couldn't get out of that, but I don't like to miss weight training, because as I tell the people I'm working with for private coaching or private talking to them about being on the 21-day challenge, everyone needs to do strength training because it's good for your bones. So as we get older, of course, we deal with bone loss. So of course, I want to maintain healthy bones and strength. No days off, chronic movement. Oh, Rachel. So, I want to retain my strength in my old age. You guys know I'm 67, so I want to be healthy and fit, but I don't want to have, bone loss. So I work out. So I'm going there. So I can't eat a bunch of food before I go work out, because my experience is weightlifting and having a full stomach does not go together very well. You will feel bad. And I've done it before. I have made that mistake enough times to know better. So not going to do that again. I'm stirring the beans a little bit so you can see over here. I've got the beans in this pan. I've got my skillet heating up. This is a Le Creuset skillet. It's a cast iron enamel, just like my pan. Hi, Julie Denton. So, this is a very versatile, changeable dish. You can use whatever you have. I have half of an onion that was in the fridge from a couple days ago. It needs to be used up. So how I decide what to make, a lot of times it's just based on what do I have around the house that I need to use. And so I always have Hatch chilies, so those are easy. But I have these grilled vegetables. I don't want to just eat plain grilled vegetables. I'm cutting my onion. I don't want to just eat, plain old grilled vegetables that I already had. Hi, Julie. So anyway, instead of, eating just the plain old grilled vegetables again, let's turn it into something else. Let's take some onions and garlic and our grilled vegetables and some corn and saute it up. And then at the end, we'll add, I'm only going to add 2 cups of beans. You could add, I think in my description of the video today, I said to have 3 cups of beans, but 2 cups I think will be enough, because I don't want to make enough for an army, because you remember it's just me and my husband. He'll eat these. He's had this something like this before, and he'll eat it. He doesn't like everything I make, but this is one thing that he'll eat. Okay, I'm just getting these onions kind of chopped up. They were a little bit rough. And I've got my handy tool here, bench scraper, whatever you want to call it. Scrapes the food off the cutting board so nicely, and then you don't have to worry about getting it off with your hands. So much more efficient. It keeps the cutting board clean. You get a spatula. So, we'll start with the onions, and we'll get the garlic in here, and then I'll start putting in some of my other vegetables. I'm going to use 2 garlic cloves. This garlic is really good. My friend Julia Buttermore went to Kentucky recently, and she came back with a bunch of garlic. Okay, Rachel says, how many days a week do you do strength training? Do you still walk your miles? I do strength training 2 hours a week, Rachel. I meet with a trainer, 2-hour blocks of training, and our training consists of, your typical biceps, triceps, shoulders, all the legs, squats, whatever, just your typical back, all areas of the body. He's really hard. He's not easy. He doesn't care that I'm an old grandma. He's like, chest presses. He says, you could do it, you could do it. And he just keeps adding weight to it. Pull down, 90 pounds. He'll keep adding weight to it. So it's not easy. So I do that twice a week. And then every single day, except for sometimes on Sunday, I go out and walk 5 miles. So this morning I got up at 5, and I get up at 5 o'clock because I'm awake. It's really strange. I don't really need to sleep. I have so much energy. So I go to bed at 10, usually, and then I'm awake about 5, and I don't really want to sleep anymore. So I wake up at 5 o'clock, and it's too dark to walk now at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock even. The sun doesn't come out till 7, and my walking partners are on a trip right now. They're out of town, so my walking partners aren't here. So I don't want to walk by myself in the pitch black down at the park right now. So instead of walking by myself early in the morning, I'm waiting until it's a little bit later. So I'm waiting until it's closer to 7 because it's almost light then. So I've been going on my walk about 7 a.m. It takes me about an hour and a half. I'm faster now. It used to take me an hour and 40 minutes. Now it takes me like an hour and 30 minutes to get my 5 miles in. I need a little water. And that's it. So Rachel, I do my workout. I put a couple tablespoons of water in here because I can see my onions are starting to get kind of brown. And I'm also gonna put some of these tomatoes in here from the Hatch chili, or from the Rotel. It was a tomato and chili combination. I'm gonna put about a 1/4 of a cup of this in here because I don't really like to have too many tomatoes. That's so awesome. You're such an excellent physical movement prescription. Physical movement prescription. And I know Rachel coaches people in physical activity as well as eating. So, she actually works out with people. What I do is I teach people how to eat. My interest, at going to culinary school and being a chef is more in teaching people how to cook and eat. And my real big interest is making food taste good, okay? So my claim to fame is not so much cooking stuff, because there are a lot of people out there that cook stuff, plant-based food, you know that. Tons of people. I'm gonna throw the lid on here and that helps it along. But I'm stirring my beans. There's a new plant-based person every day coming up with recipes and things you can cook. And I'm sorry to tell you that a lot of the food I've seen come out of people that are promoting how to make plant-based food does not appeal to me personally. I don't like the way it tastes. So, I'm always on this quest to make food taste good to me, which means it has, plenty of good ingredients, but also that the ingredients go together well. So, like I've watched videos and somebody will make some kind of stuffed pepper with beans or something, and I made something like that not that long ago. But the end product I didn't like. It was like, I don't like the way this tastes. There's some weirdness in it that I didn't like. So I'm always on the quest to make things taste better to me. So if you watch me, maybe it's because you like to make your food taste really good too. Okay, hi Gretchen, hi Sue, hi Taylor. So I've got to decide which of my vegetables I'm going to throw in with the onions, Rotel tomatoes, garlic. I think I'm going to use the bell peppers, all of them, because, you know, peppers go with this, and zucchini. It's about 3 slices of zucchini that I grilled. And I'm going to put both of the jalapeno and Fresno chili in there. I'm not going to put the yellow squash in because I don't want it to just be nothing but squash. What I'll do with this when we're done is I'll just eat it because it's good, it's grilled. It doesn't matter that it's cold. I eat cold grilled vegetables all the time. I actually think they taste good. That doesn't bother me one bit. I eat a lot of cold cooked vegetables. They're vegetables. That's what we should be eating. So I'm going to just kind of stack these up. Get this handle out of my way. I'm going to stack up these peppers, cut them into like 1/4 inch dice pieces, nothing difficult. Because that's the size of the onions, so I don't want things to be different sizes. So when you're cooking, it's a good idea to keep things sized about the same, because if some things are cut in giant pieces and some things are cut in tiny little pieces, they won't cook evenly. So that's why you'll see in the recipes it will say even the size of the dice, like cut such and such a thing in a 1/4 of an inch dice. It's because, you know, uniformity helps with your final recipe. Ooh, steamy. So I'm going to add the zucchini, and it's a yellow bell pepper. If you had red bell pepper, green bell pepper, any kind of bell pepper, it would go great in here. Just going to stir it up a little bit. So this is going to taste really good because the grilled vegetables were marinated in a little tahini and some, you know, garlic spices and what, you know, I can't remember what was in there, but they already had a good flavor. Okay, now I'm cutting up my peppers. I am not taking the seeds out because I don't care. I like it spicy. But, you know, some people think my food is too spicy. They don't want to have peppers and seeds and stuff in their food. So you don't have to put hot peppers in your food. You can always omit things you don't like. Here, let's get this where you can see it. You can always omit things that you don't like. Never worry about omitting spices and stuff, because those are usually things that are to taste, and they don't have to be the same for everybody. I think this pepper in here could stand, or this tomato in here could stand to cook down a little bit. Things taste better when they've cooked, I call it cooking down, meaning they've kind of softened and cooked a little. So I added a couple more tablespoons of water. I'm going to increase the heat. I'm going to put the lid on there. Then I'm going to clean off my cutting board because that's where I'm going to be rolling out my taquitos. So what's the difference between a flauta and a taquito? That comes up. And if you say the wrong thing, you could get in trouble. I called one of my dishes in my comfort food class on Saturday, the 11th, that's coming up. I called it tamale pie because that's what we always called that kind of thing. You know, in my group of friends and women who cook and whatever, you know, we would make stuff for the kids all the time growing up when my kids were little, and we would take, I hate to admit what I used to feed my kids, but back in the old days, we would take hamburger meat or whatever, brown it up, and then we would put, you know, some vegetables and beans maybe, and then we would cover the whole thing with cheese and then cover it with cornmeal that was kind of like cornbread topping, bake it in the oven and call it tamale pie. It was very popular. So my version of tamale pie is kind of like that. But it's all these really good tasting beans and vegetables, and it's covered with the cornbread topping. Well, I posted that somewhere and someone got really mad and said, that does not have tamales in it. You should not call it tamale pie. Melanie says they used to sell it in the grocery store as enchilada pie kit too. Yes, I remember that, Melanie. So anyway, I call it tamale pie, and if somebody objects to that, I'm sorry. But for taquitos and flautas, what I have read is it's a flauta if you use flour tortilla. It's a taquito if you use a corn tortilla. And the flautas are long. They're kind of like a flute shaped. So, you know, they're usually made with the big flour tortillas that are like the ones you use for burritos. So they're very long and skinny, whereas taquitos often are smaller because they're using a small corn tortilla. So if anybody asks you, that's what I found out, and that's what I've been told, not to call one or the other. Now I'm using a combination of corn and flour tortillas, so do I call it a flauta or a taquito? It's a little bit of both, right? Okay, so now I've let that kind of cook down a little bit. I'm gonna add the corn and the green chilies. Don't wanna leave out anything. Remember, it's like about 1/4 of a cup of the hatch chilies that I had already roasted and frozen from August, which was only last month. Wasn't that long ago, was it? And then a frozen corn, just like 1/2 a cup. I love corn, so I don't have a problem with putting corn in here. I think it'll make it taste good. So corn, zucchini, yellow bell peppers, onions, garlic. They are taquitos, Donna Romero says, okay. I believe her. So we're gonna call these taquitos. But, you know, people will get mad at you for everything, so I try not to let it get to me. And, you know, I have the same feeling sometimes when people call Japanese dishes something that they're not. Like I've had people call, you know, a rice bowl made with just rice, a sushi bowl, but it's really not sushi unless the rice has vinegar in it. You know, just kind of technical stuff. I get a little carried away sometimes myself, so no big deal. Okay, we have to season this. So what can we put in this? Now I have chili powder, cumin. I'm not gonna put salt in, but you know, I've got this whole rack of spices here I can show you really quickly. I keep them right here. They're on the little turntable, so I keep them right here where I cook. So all my stuff is easy to find, and so I can take something like chili powder. I've got Fresh Jax chili powder, but that one has kind of different flavors in it, so I don't think I'll use that one. I've got taco Mexican blend, that might be good. So I might put, I don't use this too often, so I think I'll stick a teaspoon of that in here. As you can tell, I'm kind of just making this up as I go along. I'm gonna put a teaspoon of this taco seasoning in here. But you don't, you know, use whatever you have. Use cumin, chili powder. Let's see, I'm gonna put some, find my cumin. I'm gonna put a little ground cumin in here. Boy, I'm kind of low on cumin. Need to get some more at the store. About 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Better leave this out where I see it. So I have cumin and taco seasoning. I think I'll put just a little chili powder. So anyway, I have my favorite spices out here where I can see them. I have my turmeric and ginger over there by my smoothie ingredients because that way I use it for my smoothie. But keeping your spices handy like this where you cook is kind of a nice way to keep them front and center. You know, a lot of people keep their spices stuck away in the cabinet or in a drawer somewhere that they don't usually open. And what I noticed, oh, this smells so good. Yum. What I noticed when you do that is the spices kind of get buried. I know mine used to kind of disappear. So I would look for one spice and it would be behind another spice. And then I would never get back to finding the spice that I really wanted. So now I kind of think, I'm gonna get pretty spice bottles. I bought all the same ones, same brand. And then whenever they get empty, I just go buy the spices in the bulk section of the gourmet grocery store and refill them, but they all have the same bottle. So every single one of them looks kind of alike. That was just my way of keeping up with my spices. My air fryer's been preheating, so it's gonna be hot when we use it. So it went off, but that's that noise in the background. Okay, now we have to add our beans to our mixture here. So I've got a measuring cup. I'm gonna put 2 cups of beans in here. And what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna see if my beans are done. I think they are. They look done. They have been cooking since 11:40, so almost 3 hours. Yeah, they, the one thing about these Flor De Mayo beans is it says they hold their shape well. So they hold their shape, they don't look like overly mashed up. I'm kind of draining them. They don't look very mashed up, so I'm going to put 2 cups in here, which is kind of nice because sometimes when you cook beans a long time, they kind of, you know, turn into mushy beans, but these don't. So if you wanted a bean that keeps its shape, this is a really nice bean. You can kind of see even after 3 hours, they still look really good. And so I just scooped them out of my bean pot because I don't care if they have a little liquid. I don't want them to be dry. I want them to have a little liquid because this is going to be a filling. Ooh, that's getting kind of hot. This is going to be the filling for the taquitos, so I want it to have some moisture to it so it sticks together. I don't want it to be a dry mixture that's going to fall out. So I put my 2 cups of the cooked Flor De Mayo Rancho Gordo beans in here. And I'm going to mash it up a little bit. I have a little potato masher, just your old school, like your grandma. I don't know where I got this, but it comes in pretty handy. And I don't want to mash these until they're like refried beans. They don't need to be mashed that much. But I'm mashing them some so that some of them are kind of smashed up. And then they'll mix really well with the vegetables and the corn, and they'll make a really super delicious filling for our taquitos. Okay, so I'm almost done mashing them. And you can kind of see, I'll get you a little bit closer in, that it is, there's still quite a few whole beans in here, but you can see that it's kind of getting the consistency almost like refried beans in parts of it. And that's what I want. I want parts of it to look like refried beans, not all of it. And you could make this with refried beans if you wanted to, but remember, the purpose of my bean of the week is to use Rancho Gordo beans in my stockpile of beans. And how I chose these Flor De Mayo beans is I have all these like half-pound bags of beans, like this one, that I used to just make a half a pound of beans, and then I would put the other half pound in the pantry. Well, I have a bunch of these half-pound bags of beans. And I really prefer to make a pound of beans now because I use so many more beans following the daily dozen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start combining half-pound bags of beans and making them a full pound so that I have enough beans for the week. Because I really do need more beans than what I make because I go through them so fast. If you're eating 1.5 cups of beans a day, a pound of beans only makes about, I think it makes about 6 cups of beans. Well, that you can go through 6 cups of beans pretty quickly. So, you know, I don't mind making more. Half-pound bags doesn't really give me enough. Okay, so I've got that in here. Now let's get to our taquitos. So I've got the tortillas. Remember I said, hi Carol, hi, I see Ellen still watching. Remember I warmed them in the microwave for about 30 seconds, wrapped in towels. And then I've got this is the juice from the Rotel that I strained out. And I'm just gonna dip these in that so that they're even softer and they roll up easier. So I'm just gonna put just a very quick dip in there. It doesn't have to be in there long. And then I'm just gonna put my amount of mixture in there, which doesn't have to be much either. Now, I don't know the exact amount. That's probably a couple of tablespoons. we want it to be a small enough amount that you can really roll it up tight. If you pack it too tight, it's gonna fall out the end and it's not gonna stay together very well. So I'll kind of measure that. Let me get my tray out of my air fryer. Ooh, it's kind of hot in there. I need to set it on a cutting board or something, because the tray to my air fryer is kind of warm. All right, so you need to see that. The tray to my air fryer is over here. It's kind of a rectangular metal tray, and I will be setting my taquitos on here one at a time. And I'll put probably about 6 of them on there. There's my buddy Taro over here, in case you're wondering. Taro! He's wearing a shirt because he's still recovering from his radiation treatments. But it's getting better. The skin is drying out where the radiation was. So he's actually getting better, but it still looks really sore, and he looks really sore, and poor thing, it's miserable. I feel so bad for him having to go through that. Okay, so I'm gonna take another one. But he, you know, my cooking class must be really exciting because he's sleeping right through it. Okay, so I'm putting the equivalent of, I think it is, let me measure it so you know. The next one I'll measure with a tablespoon, because people are always asking me to be more exact about stuff. I tend to cook. Sue, hi Sue. Donna says he's such a sweetheart. Yes, he is. He's been a real trooper. He had to go last Friday. He had to go back to the vet to get his radiation treatments checked. And what they had to do was they had to give him a treatment where it's like hydrotherapy, and they wash all the burned area off. I'm just dipping the tortilla, and they wash all the burned area, and then they gave him a therapeutic mud treatment. So they put, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. So I'd say 3 tablespoons of filling. So 3 tablespoons of filling on each taquito. And so then but they had to put him under anesthesia to give him the treatment, because I guess it hurts really bad. But that really helped. So his skin is starting to heal. Okay, so that makes a nice little rolled thing. I'm gonna try one without dipping it and see what happens, because it seems like it's getting a little wet. So if we don't dip it, what happens? My cutting board's a little wet, so maybe that wasn't fair. 1. I can tell you the filling is really good. If you didn't have tortillas and you just wanted to make this filling and eat it on top of a baked potato, or on top of what else could you put it on? Sweet potatoes would be good, brown rice, it's a good bean dish, just without the rolling it up part. Okay, it rolled up fine without getting it wet. So if you have my kind of tortillas, these Sprouts flour tortillas, then you can just roll them up without having to dip them in something. But just remember that some tortillas, if they're dry, will start cracking up. So you have to do something like either warm it or wet it, or do a little bit of both. But these are working out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these. I don't want to crowd my air fryer. So if this were to make 10, which it should, then the first 5, and I want you to see how pretty they look. The first 5 will fit on here. And we'll put these in here, and we're going to check them in 5 minutes. So I've got it on 350. I'm going to set my timer. Oops. Okay, I got it set for 5 minutes. So we'll check it in 5 minutes, and then we'll look at it to see if it's done yet. So if you're cooking it in your conventional oven, 400 degrees on a parchment lined baking sheet, and cook it for about 10 minutes in the regular oven, turn it, cook it for 5 more minutes. But in the air fryer, it takes less time. If you turn the heat up higher in the air fryer, like say you think, oh, it needs to be up at 400 degrees instead of, you know, this setting, be careful, because high heat in the air fryer can make things cook really, really dark really fast. And so you can't really tell by looking at it, you know, how fast it's cooking. So I found with my air fryer, the Cuisinart air fryer, that it's better to go lower. It's better to, you know, not get crazy with it, because I have had so many things that kind of got a little bit overcooked very quickly without me even realizing what was happening. Because once it starts to get to this point where it gets really, you know, overly cooked, you can't salvage the food. So, you know, you can always cook it a little bit longer. So if it's at 350 and it doesn't cook to where you want it, you can always turn it up a little bit and then cook it some more. But if you start it out at 400 and then you open it up in 4 minutes and they're all burnt, well, there's nothing you can do. So I say be a little bit careful with it. All right, so, you know, that's our basic taquito recipe, and I'll stay with you until they come out so you can see how they look when they're brown. But, you know, just a little bit more about air fryers in general. There are so many different brands out there. So, you know, just shop around if you don't already have one. And also, you know, if you don't want another appliance, a lot of people will say, I don't want another appliance. I don't have room in my kitchen to have another thing hanging out. And, you know, they don't want to have another thing. This thing takes up a lot of room if you look at it. It's a big, huge appliance. And I use mine for a toaster. I use it as a little mini oven, so to reheat stuff. My husband uses it to reheat food sometimes. And I don't really use it to cook much, but we use it as a toaster. He eats toast every day, and it's not here in my kitchen classroom. Normally it's in the house, in the kitchen in there. But it does take up a big piece of real estate on the kitchen counter. And in the beginning, we had an air fryer that was like I don't even remember the brand, but really cheap one that has a little basket, and you stick the basket in, but you can't really see what's happening. So you have no way of knowing if the food is cooking or not. And I didn't like that. I liked, you know, the glass, because I could look inside at least and tell if stuff was burning. So I ended up giving the old one away and getting a new one. So I got this one, and I love this one. In fact, if I wear it out, I'll get another one exactly like it, because it's great. I recommend these to everybody. It's in my Amazon store. So if you go to Amazon, if you search Chef Julia Dunaway Amazon store, my Amazon store will pop up, and it's under basic cooking equipment or whatever, along with the skillets and stuff I use. So if you want to get one like it, that's the easiest way to do it, or just shop for the Cuisinart air fryer oven. Sometimes I think they have them at Costco and places like that, cheaper. So you can shop around a little bit. And also I see stars are enabled. Facebook has created stars program. So if you buy stars while I'm doing my live presentation, they're worth a penny each. So if you bought 500 stars, what is that, $5? So that's a lot of stars. So if you feel like buying stars, that's what happens to them. And then every month, Facebook sends me a check every month for the classes, because some people pay on Facebook. And then for any Facebook stars. So that's what that means. A lot of times people are asking me, you know, what is that stars thing on your page? So that's what that is. Well, my timer I set for 5 hours, not 5 minutes. So that's not going to do us any good. That's the problem when you're multitasking. Sometimes you lose track of what you're doing. So I'm going to look at them. I'm going to pretend that it's been 5 minutes. And good thing I did, because look, it must have been the right amount of time, because the taquitos are perfect. They're kind of hot, but they're crispy. I can take one and tell you that it's crispy. And they stayed together. They didn't fall apart. Oh, it's hot. They didn't fall apart. And they stayed together nicely. And they look great. So, you know, I can see that this is going to be a really delicious thing to eat. I can eat one, eat the end of one. Mmm. It's really crispy, and the filling is wonderful. So, and then you can reheat these. You can reheat them in the oven or the air fryer. What would I serve it with? And it's, even though it's crispy, it's still soft on the edges. So when you bite into it, you get the crispiness from the outside, but you can still taste the corn and flour. Donna says they look delicious. My kids will love these. Yeah, this is a very kid-friendly thing because kids like things like tacos, you know, tortilla tasting things, and where I think this would really be good with kids is my cheese sauce. It's in my breakfast ebook. That's the one I use most often. In fact, I have one here, the new breakfast ebook. If you haven't already got one, it has 60 recipes in it. 60. So everything you ever see me make for breakfast is in here. But there's a really good recipe in here for cheese sauce. And I'm using, this cheese sauce is the one I'm using in my comfort food class for the macaroni and cheese. But it's also the one I use for nachos. Well, what I would do is I would take this, I would take this cheese sauce, especially for kids, make a batch of it, and imagine dipping the taquito in the cheese sauce. I would like that too. But because I don't eat a lot of cheese sauce, what I'll probably do with mine is just get some salsa out, or pico de gallo, or guacamole. I love guacamole, but I try not to eat too many avocados. But say, you know, plate it with some slices of avocado, a little bit of pico de gallo or salsa. And if you have children who can eat more things like cashews and things without, you know, gaining weight, you know, make them a bowl of the cheese sauce. And imagine how happy anybody would be having a hot taquito right out of the oven with some delicious cheese sauce. Yum. Okay, I gotta quit eating. Haven't had lunch, so I'm kind of hungry. But yeah, this is a good dish. And you can use we made the Flor De Mayo beans, which I used almost my whole pot, but I only made like 3 cups. So that was the Rancho Gordo Flor De Mayo beans, which is a small, kind of looks like a pinto bean-ish, but you could, normally when I've made this kind of thing in the past, I've used canned refried pinto beans, okay? Like Trader Joe's pinto beans in a can, refried. Or, you know, I've taken a can of beans and just mashed them up, you know, and used those. So, but, you know, my Rancho Gordo beans used in this recipe have taken it over the top because the beans themselves are so good. And then you put them in something like this that's also good, and you get good beans. And then the other thing, don't forget, is if you ever have leftover vegetables, like I had all those grilled zucchini and grilled yellow bell peppers and grilled jalapenos. So take your leftover grilled vegetables, and then I had remember the Rotel? So the Rotel tomatoes, hatch green chilies, whatever vegetables you have, frozen corn, and I'll put this recipe. Let's see, Sue says looks really good. Could be a hit at my house. I'm going to give it a try. Great, Sue. And remember, the tortillas are from Sprouts. So Sprouts has the best tortillas. Doran says, I have watched you since the beginning. I am sure I love your recipes. However, having the recipes organized by meal makes, I can't read the rest of it. I'll have to read it later. So get your tortillas at Sprouts, or Another brand is Tortilla Factory, which is, they're a company in California, and they make a corn flour tortilla blend. I've seen it at a lot of places. It also has no added fat, and that's another good one. So whatever, but don't go to the store and buy flour tortillas, because flour tortillas usually have 4 to 5 grams of fat, added fat. And you know, I'm trying to cook only whole food, plant-based, no oil food. So corn tortillas typically don't have added fat. But I like the corn flour blend because they're more flexible and they taste good. And you can eat, I usually eat 2 per serving. They have 70 calories for one. So I justify it that 2 of them equals 1 whole grain serving. So, you know, that's what I eat. And I don't eat tortillas all the time. It's not something I eat, you know, every couple days. I eat them once in a while. So I think they're worth making. And I hope you enjoyed watching this demonstration of the Flor De Mayo beans made into air fried taquitos. Crispy, they're not sticking, and they look nice and brown. I think everybody would like them. So I hope you guys make this. And I have lots of filling left, so I have enough filling to make another 5 of these, and I have the tortillas. I'm not sure that I'm gonna make more of them. I might just save my filling and use it on a burrito bowl, because I tend to eat a lot of that kind of stuff too, or on a salad. So, you know, use the filling however you want. Make your taquitos, and I'll set them down somewhere. I hope you enjoy. Thank you guys for watching. Donna says she loves this demonstration. Michelle Gangware, nice to see you on here. Thank you. Thank you all for watching my Bean of the Week. And also remember, the comfort food class is on Saturday. And that one is the tamale pie, which is really, really good. It sounds really simple, but it's very good. Michelle finally got into the Bean Club after 18 months. Isn't that amazing? My son Glenn got into the Bean Club the other day, and I think he's been waiting for like a year. And he said, I'm gonna sign up for it even though I don't cook. Like, why? You know, he's gonna have beans that he doesn't cook because it was so hard to get into. So anyway, comfort food class tamale pie is really, really good. The stuffed acorn squash, I love that recipe. I'm making like brown rice and wild rice and making this really good filling and roasting the acorn squash, serving it with mac and cheese with my good cheese sauce, which I really love. That mac and cheese was so delicious. It was just like with whole wheat pasta and the good cheese sauce. So we're having that, and trying to think what was the other recipe on there. The mac and cheese, the tamale pie, stuffed acorn squash. There's one other recipe, and there's also a spice cake, okay? The spice cake is outstanding. So I took different recipes and ideas and created a cake that's like the cake my mother used to like. Let's see, thanks so much for the presentation. I'm usually at work, so first time watching. I love beans and love Rancho Gordo Beans. Well, thank you for watching. I didn't see your name. Donna, I think. Oh, Collard, Melanie, see, I knew somebody new, and barbecue tofu. Man, I'm glad that somebody's watching that's taken the class. Collard greens are in the comfort food class. I know that doesn't sound that exciting, but I made them in the Instant Pot, which I don't use for that many things, and they were good. And the barbecue tofu, I messed around with tofu variations and came up with a way to marinate the tofu, put barbecue sauce on it that we make from scratch, and then roll it in a crust, cook it in the air fryer. And the end result was this like crunchy, crusty, really good tofu that doesn't really taste like tofu. So I liked it. It went really great with mac and cheese. So, you know, sign up for the class. It's not too late. I'll put the link in this Bean of the Week video. And also remember, I showed you the ebook. Your ebook is going to be electronic. That's what an ebook is, but I had it printed out because I like to have my ebooks all printed out. But I made this for myself, really more than anybody else, because what would happen is, oh, and I'm making this recipe on YouTube tomorrow. Chocolate peanut butter date bars is going to be my YouTube video this week. So if you want to learn how to make these, I'm making them tomorrow on YouTube. But what would happen to me is I would make all these breakfast things like oatmeal, baked oatmeal, savory oatmeal. I would just like create some really good oatmeal recipe, and then I would write it down, and then I would make, you know, creamy grits or tofu scramble. Kathy Howard loved the ebook. Yay, thank you, Kathy. And so I had like 5 folders full of breakfast recipes that I've been making and collecting for years. And so then I would say, well, where did I put the recipe for tofu scramble? Where did I put the recipe for potatoes? And I would look through all these papers, you know, and try to remember. And I kept saying, I just need to put them all in one collection. So I finally did. I got 60 recipes in this thing. And I love it because I've already been using it. I had the grandsons over yesterday, and I had a recipe in there for multigrain waffles. And so I didn't have to look through my stack of things or I've got other ebooks too. I didn't have to try to remember what ebook it was in because it was in 50 recipes ebook. And then I just set it out there and made it. And my grandsons, what was funny is they saw my ebook and they were like, Grandma, that's your picture in that book. I said, yeah, I'm famous. I have my own book. And they were 6 and 8, so they were really impressed. So it was kind of funny. And I showed them pictures of the recipes in the book. Of course, they wanted me to make everything. So anyway, get your ebook. I'll put the link to the ebook here too, so you don't have to look for it. And the class on September 11th. And Bean of the Week is every Monday at 2 o'clock. Unless the only time I don't do Bean of the Week is, you know, I have my precious little Taro over here sleeping away. He's going to the vet a lot for he's got a form of cancer. And so sometimes I have to take him to the vet. And if I take him to the vet, I never know if I'm going to be back, if he's got to stay, whatever. So sometimes I cancel because of that. But usually I try to do every Monday. I'm also trying to upload the Bean of the Week onto the YouTube channel so that it's always there and you can find it easily. I'm a little behind. I need to work on that. But most of them are on there except for the Borlotti bean one is not on there yet. So thanks for attending Bean of the Week. And I will hurry up and get my recipe. Oops. I've got my recipe written down. I'm going to hurry up and go in there and put it on the Facebook page and try to remember what I put in it because I put different things in there that I have written down. So I'll see you all soon, hopefully at the Comfort Food class on September 11th. And remember, if you can't be there for the class, I record the classes. And then as soon as the class is over, I go and send everybody the recording. And you already get the recipe packet with all the detailed recipes, so you'll have the recipes. Melanie says, thank you. My husband said it looks great. Well, good. I bet you've already made something like this, Melanie. I had a similar recipe in my 50 recipes in 50 days ebook. And I made some changes, of course, because I'm using Rancho Gordo Beans now and some other things, but very similar. So I hope you make this recipe. Post a picture of it if you make it and tag me so I'll know that it's the recipe from the video. And I'll be happy to see how you like this. But I know for myself, I thought they were pretty tasty. And I can't wait to dig in and eat a couple of them before I go work out. Maybe 2 won't hurt, but no more than that. All right, everyone, I'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.